This is Trigger Point, episode 24. My name's Serena, and sitting across from me is my co-host Peter. Hello, Peter.
Hi, everyone.
So we're going to be doing Mr. Sunshine today. We haven't finished the show. The reason why we're pointing this out this early is because we don't have a lot of time, where there's a lot of things we want to say. So we'll start off with a little bit of follow-up.
Well, we played Gloomhaven.
Yes. Together. Finally.
After waiting for a month and a bit.
Yeah. To be honest, I slightly forgot what our session was like because we played it very soon after we recorded our previous episode. So it's been nearly a month now, and I have terrible memory.
Did you play? Actually, have you played any more afterwards?
No, because me and Andrew, we started playing Arkham Horror, the card game.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that's, and then we haven't played in a couple of weeks. We haven't played any board games in a while.
So anyway, what did you think about that session of Gloomhaven, if you remember?
All I remember is originally me and Andrew were planning on making our team slightly good.
Mm-hmm. And
after Peter joined us, he decided that we're going to be terrible people. Our group has committed genocide nearly. We have killed kids in the name of money and profit.
Mm-hmm.
We're just terrible people now. Yeah. And I don't want that.
Really? You should realize by now people have listened to us for a good 2 years. They should know what we're like by now.
No, you don't understand. In real life, I might be a horrible person, but in a game, I want that. It's the only time I get to be a nice person and a hero and save kids and shit.
Because there's no way you'll be saving kids in real life.
Okay, so how was playing Gloomhaven with me and Andrew? Now that you've had experience playing Gloomhaven with other people, with 4 people, now you're playing with me and Andrew, and there's only 3 people. How does the mechanics work for you?
It was actually quite different. In a sense, when I was playing with 4 people, everything seemed to be a lot easier. I know supposedly the game scales with how many people you have, but just with the less amount of people, it does make moving across the board a lot longer.
Harder, yeah.
And just, I don't know. It just
we were really close to death, weren't we?
We nearly died.
Yeah.
For at least 2 of the scenarios, I remember.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. I enjoy it. And I like, the main reason why I'm pushing us to Eve was because I'm really good in the other campaign. Now I need another campaign where I'm terrible. And, we are terrible people, Serena, so you should be fine with that.
This is an audio podcast, so you can't see the look I'm giving Peter right now. I'm shaking my head at him.
Oh, come on. You know that you're terrible to begin with. Anyway, what else have we been up to? Have you been up to anything else apart from Gloomhaven?
No. Well, I've been really involved in Micro.blog, but that's another topic for another time.
Fair enough.
There's some certain things where I'm currently in the middle of until it's finalized. I don't want to talk about. Oh, okay. Very broadly, we're trying to start an RPG group using blog posts.
Ooh.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. We're still trying to figure out the mechanics.
I was going to say that's going to take a lot of organizing and coordinating.
No. Everyone does it on their own blogs, but everyone have their RSS feed that we're all going to put together into a bundled RSS feed. So if you want to just read the story, you subscribe to that feed and you can read off everyone's blog post. And if everyone posts in the order that they're supposed to, you have an ongoing flow. Mm-hmm. And so we're still trying to work out the mechanics on that and how that would work. It's interesting.
Okay. Well, I've recently went on my snow trip. Went snowboarding for 10 days. Best snow year ever. Okay. I have to say, this is one of I was really lucky. The first 2 days we went to Hotham, it was snowing the first 2 days, and so every morning we had fresh powder snow, and the snow was so good. It was literally as good as the ones we get in Niseko.
Okay,
it was that good. This year probably was the best year I've had in the last 10 years, I would say.
Okay. So while you're enjoying the snow, I was freezing my ass off down in Melbourne.
Yeah. Which is why our snow was so great. So it was awesome. Loved it. But while I was up at the snow, I've managed to find some time to play Steins Gate Zero.
Instead of watching this show.
Huh?
Instead of watching this show.
Well, I'll watch the show as well. But I'd like to play the game first. I tried to put off watching the show because I really wanted to play the game.
Yep.
Same thing with Steins Gate, where I tried to play the game before I watched the
show.
I won't go into too much of it because we may decide to do Steins Gate Zero as a later topic. All I would say is it's different. It's different. And
not a good different, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how I would classify that. It's just different.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's just different. You'll know when you watch it. The one thing I would say though is I love the music in Steins Gate Zero.
Okay.
It was awesome. I also recently went and bought a Voltron Lego set. If you can, it's actually behind me right now.
I didn't actually look at it because your room is a mess right now.
Yeah, well, I just came back from the snow, right?
You didn't just come back.
Well, I had a lot of other stuff
yes,
going on. So,
true.
I didn't exactly have time to pack.
Yeah, no, fair enough. You had enough time to build a Voltron Lego, though.
That was before I went on the
trip.
Oh,
okay, right.
That was before all the other stuff happened.
Okay.
So anyway, I went. I actually looked at the Lego set quite a while ago because this is. I don't know if you realized Lego has a creator website.
Yes.
For people to basically put
submit their
things in, and this is one of them that got approved. And so when it first came out, I was like, I'm so gonna buy that. And I was like,
does that disassemble into the individual bits?
Yes, it does.
Oh,
yes, it does make into the 5 lions. And you can put them together into the main robot.
Oh wait, when you put them into the 5 lions, do you have to like disassemble a lot of it?
No.
Oh, okay, this is a working kind of
it's very good. It's like really, really well done. I was so impressed when I finished building. I was like, wow, that's all made of Lego. That's so impressive.
I remember having a Voltron like toy as a kid, like the metal one, and it all pulls up apart and stuff like that. Those things could kill people. Like you throw them at people, it hurts.
It hurts, yes. So I saw that, and then I deliberately took my goddaughter to the Lego Center
so you could go and buy it.
I didn't know it was
as
there.
a guise to like, I'm buying this Lego set for my
no. So I was like, oh, I wanted to see if they had it at the Lego Center. So I was like, oh, I know that that they wanted to go to the Legoland. I'll take them to the Legoland. And the other main thing is because I actually can't go into the Legoland myself.
What?
You can't go to the Legoland without a kid.
What, really?
You didn't know that?
I've never been. You mean the one in Chadstone?
Yeah. To actually do all the stuff. Well, the shop I can actually go by myself. But if you actually want to go in the Legoland, and do the actual stuff,
are you sure?
Yes, you can. There's only one day that you can take it, that you can go without kids. Every other day you have to go with a kid.
I did not know that because I've seen that place with Andrew a couple of times, and we're like, oh, do we want to go inside? Oh, we don't really have enough time, but we want to. Oh, crap! Would they bring a kid?
Yep. Which is why, like, I was like, That's when being a godfather is like really useful. I'm like, so does Isabel want to go to the Legoland?
I would still, I think, like after consideration, I still would wait until the full adult only days before I go. I don't think I could handle taking a kid with me.
Yeah, it was hectic. Trust me.
There's so many other kids around. Like you can't.
It was very hectic.
Okay. That actually reminds me of something I have done. Me and Andrew went to Sea Life, like the aquarium, the night thing. Because it's a night thing, it's only adults.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time we've been for the night aquarium thing, but the previous times we went, I think the tickets were a little bit more expensive, and they included food and drinks. And it was a little bit more posher when you go there. Like it's everyone's dressed up really nicely. You go in, and like there's people bringing you drinks and finger food, and you're walking through all the stuff. This time it's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah,
and there was a lot more varied groups there, and they've opened up the food court, so you're buying food instead of
Okay.
them giving you food.
Okay.
Like when we got in, they were handing out like cocktails to people.
Mhm.
Like when you first walked in, and they gave you one finger. Like they had a couple of finger foods.
Yeah.
But I thought that they were going to follow us through.
Yeah.
So I only took one small little pastry,
Mm.
and I didn't take any of the drinks because they were all alcoholic. I
Mhm.
asked them whether they were non-alcoholic drinks, and they said yes inside.
Mhm.
So I just thought, oh yeah, they're going to follow us.
Mm.
Went inside and then realized there was no more food,
Mhm. You
no
have to
more
buy.
drinks. You have to buy everything. And because it was a lot rowdier, I wasn't as impressed.
Mm.
But unlike last time, they actually organized talks. There's actually people who are standing in certain like displays, and at certain times they'll be talking and teaching you stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and you can ask questions about the fish, about the stuff. And that was pretty cool. Except for the fact that these people are very bad at organizing. No one told us there were any talks walking in. The only reason why we knew about it was we stumbled on one
Mhm.
while that was happening. But once we found it, it was very enjoyable because normally when you go to an aquarium during the day or any other time, and there's the question and answer time,
Mm.
the person always chooses kids,
Yeah.
right? You always give kids the chance to ask the questions because you encourage curiosity
Yeah.
and so they'll learn stuff, right? But it means that you get the same kind of questions over and over and again, right? How old is that fish? And then
Yeah.
once one kid asks that question, every single other kid wants to ask the same question. Well, how old is that fish? And like
Yeah.
the next 45 minutes, you've answered the same question
Yeah.
about every single fish in that tank.
Yeah.
But here you have an adult audience.
Mm.
Everyone's like, and people have been drinking a little bit. So the presenter, she's like, it's really nice to do these talks because I could swear and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I'm also answering a different type of question. So
Yeah.
people are asking some more, a little bit more complicated
Yeah.
questions, like how does the jellyfish, like pulse?
Yeah.
Like, do they have a brain to control it? And
Yeah.
they know they do not.
Mm.
Or like, how old is the octopus? Like, apparently most of the octopus only live up for 2 years
Mm.
because after they've mated, they kind of die.
Mm.
And apparently how they mate is, and you're like, oh, this is how you tell when there's a male octopus and a female octopus. The male octopus only have 7 legs. And we're like, what? He's like, well, what happens is that when they mate, the male octopus essentially just pulls off one of his arms, gives it to the female octopus,
Huh.
and the female octopus sticks it in her head, and they scuttle off in separate places. And then when the female octopus starts producing eggs,
Yeah.
she will get the leg and start like rubbing it against the eggs and stuff, and it will fertilize it.
Huh.
And then after it fertilized, she chucks the legs away, and then she gives birth with all these fertilized eggs. And I'm like,
That-
wow, I did
that's
know that. Like,
morbid.
and you would not
No.
even know that. Like, you probably won't tell that to kids,
No.
right? The male octopus pulls out his arm and gives it to the female octopus. Female octopus sticks it in her head, and you're like, what? What? And she's like, oh yeah, and the most dangerous fish in this tank where all the shark is not the shark. There's this big, huge fish that's 3 meters long. When they first put it in the tank, it ate 3 of the sharks. And you're like, what? Yeah, and they swallow humans too. And when you get swallowed, don't try to fight your way out because they'll just swallow you more. You try to get your way in and they'll spit you out because it thinks you're trying to attack it. So, again, not something you probably teach kids. Kind of interesting. So that was, for me, like, that's why I would rather go to the Legoland thing when it's adults. Because there are certain things, if they are specifically aiming it towards adults,
Yeah.
I think would be more interesting.
Yeah.
Who knows? There might be a sorry, I was gonna say penis-shaped Lego. Oh, did you know there's a 6,000-piece Lego set for Hogwarts?
I know. Not tempted though. I don't think I would like it.
At first, I liked the idea of it, and then I saw it, and I realized it's not really the full Hogwarts. And I'm like, yeah.
Okay, I think that's enough about what we've been up to.
Yep.
Let's go to our main topic for today.
Yeah.
What is our main topic, Serena?
It's a Korean drama called Mr. Sunshine. Very quick overview. It is during the time when Korea is a vassal of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It is also during the time when, like, essentially every other country is trying to pull...
Well, basically trying to steal all its riches.
Yeah, essentially. And you have main characters who are trying to work towards saving their country, so to speak. But the main character is a guy who was a slave in this country. As a kid, he left, went to America, 30 years later.
More like fled.
Yeah. Comes back 30 years later, or nearly 30 years later, as a U.S. Marine, captain of the U.S. Marines kind of thing, you know, all cool and powerful and stuff.
Yep.
So you think that this show is about revenge. You know, well, Peter specifically thought this was about political intrigue and
you know,
revenge. But at the same time, you get introduced to a female character who, she's a noble lady, born of parents who are radicals, who try to save the country and died because of it. And she becomes a radical herself. So by day she's a noblewoman, and by night she's like a sniper, like really kick-ass and everything, like dressed in man clothes, jumping around from rooftop to rooftop. And the two of them meet and interact. And this is where me, with all my experience of watching Korean drama, immediately understood this is not a political intrigue or like a revenge story. Still could be, but it's mainly a love story.
Meanwhile, me, being very ignorant of these tropes, was, you know, thinking that this is going to be a revenge and intrigue and plotting and, you know, people really being really clever and trying to, you know, outwit each other in their, you know, disastrously ploys and trying to up one another. And I was very, very confused because the revenge story kind of gets resolved in like the first, like, I don't know, 3-4 episodes. The intrigue kind of never really pops its head out enough. It kind of is there, and they mention bits of it, but then they fade away, and then you go.
Well, it's interesting. Like, the bad guys are not very competent in this. Like, they don't find out. Like, in this whole show, the bad guy doesn't realize the relationship between all the characters and like that, and how they're interacting with each other. Because if he realized that these three guys all were in love with the same woman, he just needs to target the woman, and they're all pretty screwed, right? But he never understood. Like, even when he met them, he doesn't understand that they're his like that they're
the actual
they're working against him. He doesn't understand that.
He's still kind of confused and like, why are these three people together? Like,
why are they working against me? Why aren't they just greedy like everyone else is, right? Like, because he's confused for so long. The show is not really about him, like not about him doing his dastardly plans. He's doing his dastardly plans, and the king or the emperor is like scratching his head, and he's like he's in a bad position because of everything that's going on. But that's not the main part of this show. Now,
it's not the main part at all.
Like, unlike most of the other episodes we've done, we already talked about the things we liked first. This episode, I want to talk about the things we don't like first, because there's less of them. And I
think for once there is slightly less things we don't like compared to the things we do like about
and
it.
I think but also because we haven't finished it.
That is true.
This is a show that is only coming out 2 episodes a week, and by the time this show gets published, we'll probably be at like episode 20 or something. And there's only 22 episodes of this, so we haven't watched
22 or 24.
22, I think.
22?
And 22.
Okay.
And we haven't watched it ending yet, so probably because of that, we're still positive about the show. Although in saying that, in the Korean Odyssey, by this point we would have given up, because by episode 18 we figured out by that point, like, there's no point to this show. There's no crying, there's no heartstring pulling. Whereas this one has been pretty good. So I think I want to talk about the things we don't like first. If we get that over quickly, over and done with quickly enough, we will have more time to talk about things we like. Okay. So, Peter has more things that he doesn't like than me, because, as we said, I crocked on very early that this is a romance. So therefore, a lot of things were like, oh, I understand. This is like, my mind frame was set to be like,
this is a romantic story. I will accept this.
I'm just going with the flow. That's fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. Whereas Peter's still struggling with, like, this doesn't fit with my, like, mind frame of what the show is about.
Okay, so the first thing I don't like about this show, it is very slow. the pacing of the show is very slow, especially the start.
Yes.
Especially the start. Once you get to probably around episode 9, it really starts to pick up, and a lot. It becomes a lot better by then. But that first 8 episode, God, there were so many like long slow motion panning across like sceneries for like 2 minutes, and then nothing's being said, and just looking at like the beautiful scenery. It is beautiful. The scenery is very well done. The cinematic was great, but it was very long, way too long. Okay, so you basically have like 2 minutes of doing nothing, and I'm like, and that's the problem. This is not a short show. Each episode is not short episodes. Each episode's like, an hour and like 12 minutes or something. They're very long, and so you can cut out probably 10 minutes of the show just by getting rid of all those slow motions that does no purposes, that do nothing for the show.
Okay. I should mention each episode is about an hour long, so they're very long episodes, and it is true that it was very slow at the start. Pretty much the entire first episode is about the backstory of the main 2 characters, right? As kids. So you barely see either of them as in their adult form. And the show kind of starts from episode 2.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree that it's too slow, because Korean shows tend to be slow. Firstly, and the production quality of the show is so good. Like, yes, there are long panning shots of the scenery, but it's nice panning shots of the scenery. It's not terrible panning shots. Like, everything is so pretty. This show is so pretty.
Look, quality-wise, it is very good. It's probably one of the best quality Korean shows I've seen. Not that I've seen a lot of it, but it's very, very good quality.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that they can spend 10 minutes or on the same thing. Like, just no. Leading on from that is there's a lot of recaps in this show, especially at the start, which is fine. A lot of show does recaps. I'm so used to recaps in like Western shows where recaps are like done in like the first like minute. Everything's given to you, and and if you don't want to, you can just skip that minute. It's fine. These recaps are long. Okay, they start like 3 minutes or 4 minutes of the last episode and then go back into it, which isn't a bad thing per se, because if it were me and you didn't know better, you would just go, I'll just skip those 4 minutes and just go to and just go direct to the start. But I can't do that now, can I, Serena?
No. Okay, because with this show, when they do a recap, they actually show you things that they didn't show you at the end of the previous episode. So in the end of the episode, you see, say, 2 characters. I'm not saying that this is what happens in the show, but you show the 2 characters, they're meeting, and they're like, oh my god, you killed the guy, or something. And at the start of the next episode, you see the minutes leading up to the guy killing the guy, and then you end up with the 2 characters going, oh my god, you killed the guy, right? So you can't skip it, because you now have crucial information that you would have skipped through by fast forwarding.
By accident.
So for me, because I'm not a person who skips shows, I don't fast forward. I take it all in the way that it was presented to me, because only by that do I actually take in all the moods and all the things that the producer or the director wants me to feel, Peter. Which is why probably I can accept the 2 characters falling in love, because I watched everything. I watched every single minute of the show, and like,
watching every single minute still doesn't make their falling in love make sense to me. Which becomes my second point, which I don't like, is look, this is a romance show. Okay?
Romantic show. Yeah, it's a romance,
okay?
yeah.
I didn't think it was at the start.
Yes.
Which is why it felt really awkward for me that I kept on having these there's in the show tries so hard to put the 2 characters together and put them in situations where they have to be either in conflict or they're working together, or there's interactions between the 2. And throughout these interactions, it's supposed to show you them developing feelings for each other.
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. I can accept that. But the way they develop the feelings are like really, really awkward, and like it's just odd.
For you.
For me.
For you.
Because when I was watching it, I kept on thinking that it's a political drama. So I'm like, okay, is this part of the politics? Is this part of how they're going to,
You think they're going to use
each
other?
Are they trying to, manipulate each other so that is and because of that they have these, interactions? But no, it actually wasn't. It's whole
all
show.
very straightforward.
It's all very straightforward.
Their
It's just
feelings
a love
for
story.
each other are very wholesome.
They see each other. The very first episode. Okay, so I will say this. The very first episode, you see them basically being on a mission and being basically.
They've both been assigned on a mission, and they didn't realize that they were on the same mission to kill the same person.
Yeah, well, he really wasn't assigned. He did it himself, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but so they were doing the same mission and they were at the same place at the same time, so they see each other. But because both of them were covered,
they both had their face covered,
with their face masks on. They only see each other's eyes, right? Only see each other's eyes. They look at each other and realize, oh, there's another person. Then they run off.
Yeah.
Okay, they run off. Okay, blah blah blah. What happens then? The next episode, very next episode, you have them. You have the male lead basically interrogating the female lead. Okay,
as a witness.
And then he basically, in the second episode or the third episode, whichever it was, like basically like the straight episode straight afterwards, you have him, covering half of the bottom half of her face, so he can only see her eyes, and then she does the same.
Right.
Okay, and then they're both like, well, I may have seen someone strange at that place too.
Yeah, like I think I recognize someone there too.
Yeah, so they immediately know that.
But they knew even before then.
Yeah, but so all of these interactions just feels like they're not supposed to be together at the start for me.
Really? I thought the moment when they lifted their hands.
No. Okay, no. So they were supposed to go, but it felt like because they were on the wrong side, it's going to be like a terrible, like it's
Romeo and Juliet kind of situation.
And so I can't. But anyway, the interactions that they have for the first 8 episodes is really stilted. Okay, it's very
liked it a lot.
it's very like there's no romanticism in.
I'm shocked.
I
thought it was very romantic.
I did not find it romantic at all.
Okay,
that first 8 episode did not find it romantic at all. Okay, funnily enough, once they've professed their love to each other, which again I have a lot of issues with that scene. It's just like they've basically throughout the first 8 episodes they barely express affection to each other at all, because one, because of the period, 2, because they're both kind of like dealing with their own things, but for some unknown reasons, I think it was in episode 8, she hugs him.
Yes.
Okay, that signifies that they're together. It wasn't until that kind of like, oh, this is just a straightforward romantic story, right? Okay.
I figured it out by episode 2, so it's slightly different situation.
So okay, once I was like, oh, so that's why none of this political, intrigue things make sense, because that's not important. That's not the thing that I should be paying attention to. Okay, right. That's what I'm missing in this thing. Once she hugs him and the professor's like, then the relationship begins for me.
Okay.
And it's only until then that I kind of see why they would fall in love with each other. Not before any of that. Afterwards, all their little tiny interactions, all the scenes together when they, make each other, like, I buy all that. That was really well done. I love that part. But those 8 episodes, there was nothing there to explain why they would fall in love with each other in the first place. It makes no sense to me. Anyway, so I hated that part.
It's because I realized the moment they first, like, as you said, they saw each other on rooftops and they ran in opposite directions. And then pretty much immediately after, they both change into normal civilian clothes and they have to go through a crowd to kind of like get lost in the crowd so they won't get discovered.
Yep.
And while they're doing this, they cross each other's paths. And because they're covered in gunpowder, like you smell gunpowder on them, they both look around because they're like, oh, there's someone has the other shooter is here, right? Yeah. And they look around and they're like, oh, that guy is the one who was on the rooftop with me. And the guy's like, wait, the other person on the rooftop was a woman? And like they recognize each other. And because the second episode ends with them staring at each other across a crowded room, so to speak, I realized, oh, it's a romance. This is a romance. Okay. And from that point on, every single time you see them interacting, at the start, they are very, there's a lot of conflict, right?
They're a bit antagonistic with each other.
Yeah, they're very antagonistic with each other. But because I knew it was a romance, I was looking for those little nuggets where they were like, they drop hints.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that, yes, they did hold up the hand to each other, right? And this was a way that they were threatening each other. Like, I know your secret identity. But then later on, she's in her, like, the thing that they carry her around in.
Yeah, the
palanquin.
Palanquin, yeah. Palanquin.
Like she was in a seat and people were carrying her around. She would hold up her hand and she's looking at her hand, and it reminded me of this, like a scene in Pride and Prejudice, like after they touched hands for the first time, because you don't normally, people in her position as a noblewoman, she doesn't get contact with random men, right? So not only was she talking to a man unsupervised because the servants were sent away, he was sitting really close to her. That was like, you know, that kind of thing was going through my mind. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. This is cool. This is getting there, right? And so where you were not looking at that stuff, you were waiting for all the scenes with the intrigue where the bad guy was doing stuff, or like when he's deciding whether he's gonna do like revengey stuff.
Yeah, like whether he's thinking, how am I going to use this information? Like, I was waiting for that, and it was like that never came, and so it was like, oh. And as I said, it wasn't until like, once I kind of realized, oh, it's supposed to be a romance, and that's all there is to this. It's only a romance. It's not a lot of genres mixed together. No, really, it is, but it's mainly the romance, and that's why that first 8 episode was so difficult for me to watch.
Oh yeah, I can understand how that would be if you had your mind frame set on a different genre entirely, and I think that's also why, like, for me, I could understand why all 3 characters, like all 3 male leads, was in love with her, because this story is a love story.
Yeah.
It's not about political intrigue. It's not about anything. So for me, it was like,
okay,
yeah, of course. Like she's not
pretty.
She's pretty. she's very strong. Yeah. And she knows what she wants. She's working towards it. She's really strong and she's kick-ass. And so I can completely understand why the 3 male characters like her. Now, if you think about it a little deeper, then you're like, well, okay, you have her fiance, who hasn't met her
before, and had walked out on, well, basically,
he was supposed to get married to her 10 years ago, but he refused to come back to Korea. So the engagement had been like lingering for forever. And then he comes back, sees her, and then he's like,
admittedly, I'm smitten by you.
I regret I have not come back earlier so that we can get married because you're exquisite. Okay, they do kind of explain that he loves useless things. He loves flowers. He loves moonlight. So he loves pretty girls. Yeah. But for me, it felt like I would have thought it was a more shallow kind of like, I appreciate pretty girls kind of thing. Yeah. But later on, as the show goes on,
he is actually in love with her. Like, really, really in love with her.
Yes.
To the point where it's kind of like, why? Like, what did she do?
You guys have only seen each other like twice.
You guys had maybe like 3 conversations in total.
And she's always been antagonistic to you.
She hates you. She
calls you a white, weak... was it weak, pasty... fool or something.
Yeah, exactly. And he is, you know? And there is nothing to show that she likes you in any way, shape, or form. And yet he's completely smitten with her. Yeah. So that's one reason why I find that really annoying, because I'm like, why does the fiance like her? It doesn't make sense. But we have to, because it's, part of the show.
And then there's the Ronin.
The Ronin. Who they at least they have a backstory, okay? They have a backstory to explain kind of why he...
Okay, she saved him when he was a kid, right?
Yeah.
They were both kids. She saved his life.
Yeah.
So
He was a butcher's son, and basically butchers are supposedly the lowest of the low classes.
Yeah.
And he was basically
He was going to get killed
he was
because
gonna
of
get
certain
killed.
situations,
Yeah.
right? And she saved him. And he supposedly went away
Yep.
to Japan, and he only recently came back.
Yep.
Right? Because at the start, it was when he sees her for the first time again.
Yeah.
The fortune teller said, "Oh, this is a reunion that shouldn't happen."
Yeah.
Right? So he hasn't seen her since he was a kid, but now he's in love with her.
Yeah. Immediately when he
But
sees
apparently, he's been in love with her since he was a kid.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, and that's the thing. Like, we don't know because we never see what happens.
If
right?
we think the female lead hates the fiance, she really hates this Ronan. Like,
she despises him.
like if he touches anything she's touched, she will burn it. Right? There's no chance in hell he will have any future with her at all. But he loves her so much. Like,
to the point where it's unhealthy
it's
obsession.
really unhealthy.
Like he basically has like a guard that's like stands on watch outside her house and reports to him everything that happens.
Yeah.
With regards to her.
And the thing is, they make it romantic in this show, but it shouldn't be because it's actually very stalkerish behavior.
Totally.
But they do kind of make it cute in some situations, right? Like she just slapped him in the face,
Yeah.
and he's walking away,
And he's holding it.
He's
He's holding it, going like, "Oh, he touched me."
And then he's smiling, and his second in command is like, "Why are you smiling?" And he's like, "Oh, last time we met, she wanted me dead,
and
now she wants me to live through suffering."
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
she wants me to live. So and I'm like, that's not healthy. She doesn't want you to live. She wants you to suffer and not die and suffer through it all.
So that's the thing. The way the show is very well done in this respect. They make it look romantic.
Yes.
Like when I was watching it, it was okay because
I don't question it. Like, as
yeah,
in, like,
when you're watching it, like, oh, that's nice. Oh,
he's in love with
love with
her.
her.
Oh, he's so in
It's
love
only
with
when
her.
you think deeper about it, like, wait. That's unhealthy. Like that's not right. He's basically stalking her, and she's basically said to him, "I don't want you to be anywhere close to me. I will burn everything that you've touched.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't come near me at all." But yet they've somehow managed to make that seem okay in the show.
Well, okay, this is how they make it seem okay. I know we have one more thing we want to talk about with regards to what we don't like, but can we bring that up a little bit later? Because
yeah.
this leads into immediately why we think it's okay for this fiance and this Ronan to be in love with her.
Yeah.
Like, how could we be okay with these two characters who are one who is this flowery, useless rich boy who doesn't seem to take anything seriously, and this Ronan who seems to kill without hesitation and has this unhealthy, obsessive, obsession with her, right?
Yeah.
Why can we
Still
accept
find
them?
it
Yeah.
okay.
Because one of the main things about the show, which I really love, and you really love too, is that the three main male leads, when they get together and they interact,
It's hilarious.
it's the most. It's
the
this is
most
what
enjoyable part.
I love this show so much, if only just to see the three of them interact with each other.
So you've got the fiance.
Yep.
You've got the Ronin, and then obviously you have the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
The main
Male lead, okay.
American.
Okay. And the three of them all love the same woman.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, none of them knew each other existed.
Yep.
And then they know each other exists, but they don't realize that they exist in relation to the woman,
Yeah.
right? But they already get a little annoyed with each other.
Mm-hmm.
One, because, he's a Japanese guy. There's an American guy who looks like a Korean guy.
Yeah.
And there's a rich boy who doesn't seem to know crap.
Yeah.
Right? And they're all kind of like, they already get on each other's nerves.
Mm.
Then they realize that they all love the same woman.
Yeah.
Well, no, okay. Two of them know that all three of them love the same woman. The fiance is like
completely oblivious.
clueless. So he's always stumbling into a situation where everything is so tense and he doesn't realize he's causing it.
Yeah, and he's trying to be like, oh, we should get along.
We should all be friends. And the thing is, in the show, you see the three of them get together. They're always constantly like ending up in the same bar together. They don't want to be like interacting with each other. They don't want to be in the same room together.
Yeah.
But
for some reason, they
always end up that way,
being
right?
that way.
And then over time they become friends.
Yeah.
Right?
It's that unwitting friendship, but
unwilling.
yeah. But it ends up being really endearing.
Yeah, and they egg each other, or
banter.
they banter. Yeah.
Like they really try to, like, their general conversations with each other is like, oh, I really wish I can kill you today, but I can't because I need to do something else. But it's stuff like that.
Or like, oh, I heard about your day, right? Like someone shot at you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, did you wish that I had died? It's like, yeah.
you
know, the rhythm in which they speak, the humor that they manage to portray, even when keeping their facial expressions completely deadpan.
Yeah.
Because both, like, apart from the fiance, the other two are pretty
really
good.
Serious.
They're very serious.
Serious faces.
Yeah, and the fiance, he's always look a little bit foolish because he's always slightly drunk.
Yeah,
and he doesn't know what's going on. He's really friendly. He's like that friendly Labrador
Yeah.
that's constantly like following the two of them. And like, can we play? Can we play? Can we be friends? Can we be friends? And like the two of them is like, just go away, please. Please go away. And like the number of times that they threatened to kill him, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so hurt." Like in the matter of moments, you threatened to cut me with your sword, and you threatened to shoot me. Like he doesn't take them seriously ever, and they might actually mean it semi-seriously, but at the same time, they're never really gonna do it. Actually, it's more funny about the fact that they would do it at that point.
Yeah,
but like he doesn't realize, and so because you see their interaction. When you see the serious interaction between the female lead and the other two, I can't help but feel endeared towards the men. And I'd be like,
because you know that
they're so...
Because you know, there's no point because you guys are never going to get her.
Like, true. And also you know that they're good guys in... Yeah. Like, because if you can be friends with the male lead... Like, if the three of you, knowing that you love the same woman, can still be friends... You're not that bad of a person.
And in the show, they aren't.
No.
Like, well... They do bad. Well, the Ronan guy does a lot of bad shit, but
he
kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
But they're not bad people at heart.
No. Okay. The first person he killed, when the first person she saw him kill, it looked like a random thing. He came across random two men and he's cut them down, right? And it looks like, oh wow, he just kills people because he is in a bad mood. But what actually happened was because he overheard these two men talking about wanting to rape her.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why he went and killed them.
Yeah.
Right? So when you look at it that way, it's like, well, is he really a bad guy? Because he just killed rapists.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Like he has a sense of honor.
Yeah.
That's slightly overboard sometimes, but he does. And so because we also know that in the show, it's very clear from the show that
who's the good guy, who's the bad guy.
Yeah, and that the male lead and the female lead are going to be together. They're the pair.
Yep.
There's no. It's not
a love triangle.
There's no love triangles. There's no like.
Would she? Wouldn't she? With the other guys?
like who's she's going to choose? No. It was very clear that those two like each other and they're in love.
Yep.
These other two really have no chance.
No.
But they still love her.
And it's slightly sad. And you're like, oh, no. Like, oh, you're going to oh, that hurts.
It's like there are points in the show where, like, in some respect, the two of them sacrifice so much for her that you're like, oh, I can't.
Can't she at least feel a little bit for them?
It's like, just a little bit. We're not asking you to like.
And it does pay off sometimes, right? Like, she does start to feel friendly towards them because, you know, when the fiancé knelt with her to beg her grandfather to break the engagement. And then he says to the servant girl, he's like, oh, once I go down, you need to scream as loudly as you can.
Yeah.
And then he says to the female lead, catch me. And then he faints. I thought that scene was really sweet.
It was very well done. That was like, at least you know he got something out of it.
It was just kind of sad. But yes, I really love the interaction between the male leads.
Yeah, their interaction is it's so because they're so deadpan as well. That makes, and the physicality in those scenes are very there's a physical humor to them.
Yep.
Like
the timing.
Yeah, the timing. Like they'll both lift up their glasses, and as they're about to drink, you know, the fiance will like, "Oh, only friends drink together." Then immediately both of them slams the drink, slaps that, and just the whole like the physicality of them makes those scenes like so worthwhile.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that we both really enjoyed.
But it's not just the interaction between the male leads that we enjoy.
No.
This show have a lot of characters.
Yeah.
Like a lot of like side characters. But as you said, it has a bit of political intrigue, right? So you have a story going on with like the emperor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of like, you know,
there's a lot of like side stories, and because of that, there's obviously a lot of like side characters. One thing I really enjoyed about this show was how much backstory and how much attention they pay to the side characters.
Yeah,
they're not just there to look pretty, and once their kind of little part's done, they're gone. No. Each person, even if it's like not very important, they have a very intriguing backstory and a lot of really, really strong motivations for a lot of characters. And I really enjoyed it. It's very rare that a show like this, when it's a romantic show that focuses on obviously the two leads, would pay so much attention to the other characters.
I think it's because you mentioned it before. This show, even though it's a love story, it doesn't revolve just around the love story. Yes, when the two leads get together, it is very sweet and funny, and you see him smile because he's normally so deadpan. When he smiles,
cool.
he's normally very cool and very serious. And when he's with her and they make a joke and he smiles and he's very boyish and stuff, you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but then they split off, right? Because in the story, they can't actually stay together constantly.
Yeah.
It's a period piece. A guy and a girl can't be together alone that long.
Yeah. They can't even really be together at all because, you know, she's a noble and, you know, she's not supposed to, you know, talk even to
him. Yeah. But when they are separated and the story proceeds, it doesn't all just revolve about them or about when the next time they meet. We as an audience member wants to see that.
Wants to see the next for that.
But there are other things go on, right? The story is still going on. There is still a political story going on. There's still like slight warfare or whatever. It's a political playground, right?
Yeah.
And all these other characters are still doing their thing.
Yeah.
And we get to see that.
Yeah.
Just because she's not with him doesn't mean, and she is pining for him a bit, but she still has to go on missions.
Yeah.
He still needs to go on missions, and he needs to talk to all these other people around him, and he's making friends. He's making enemies too. And all these people around him, they are fully fledged characters, and they're not there just to help him meet the girl.
No.
They're helping him to complete other missions. He's there to help them complete their missions.
Yeah. I think what's really surprising for me is the fact that, as you said, all the side character is not just there to help the two leads get together.
No.
And that's usually what happens in a lot of romance stories. You know, everything ultimately ends up being it's for them to meet up or end up together. This isn't really it.
Yeah.
What actually made this work for me, especially later on in the show, which why I really much enjoyed the show in the later episodes, was that because they're not constantly together, it makes all the interactions when they do meet up with each other so much more treasurable. Like it's so much more cherished. It's like, yes, they finally see each other. That's like, you know, I haven't seen them together for like, you know, half the episode, and they finally get to meet each other for 5 minutes. And
they have a little bit of vocal bantering, and that's the thing, because it's another period piece. They don't get to touch.
No.
Right? Normally, if it's a modern thing, even with Korean shows, and they're a bit like conservative about like physical
contact and whatever.
At least you would have had some hugging, some kissing, some hand holding. Here, they can't even sit next to each other.
Yeah,
like,
when they were eating, they had to eat with like a
sliding
door between them. It's like, wow, but then they're like this. But then they'll be like, oh, this is the only way I can think of that we can eat together.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh, that's enough.
It
was like,
or like earlier on the show when they were walking together down the street, like you didn't understand because she was saying, oh, it was so cool to be able to walk with you down the street together, and
at the time, I didn't get it as well.
At the time, you don't understand just how precious that is. And later on, when they're together, you realize they never get to walk down the street together.
Yeah.
You're like, they could barely acknowledge each other when he rides past on his horse.
Yeah, and
Like,
she's in his
They
palanquin.
can't even stop
Yeah.
to look at each other. They
Yeah.
just have to keep going.
Yeah.
And when you realize that and you think back to the moment when they both walk down the street together,
Yeah.
you're like, no wonder. Oh my God. Like, oh.
But this is one of the things though. Like this show does require a lot of. There's a lot of cultural things
That you need to
you need to
understand.
understand, and obviously we're not Koreans,
No.
but we have a lot of cultural awareness in different things, so
Yep.
it's probably not as shocking, and it's easier for us to accept. It would probably be a bit hard for someone who doesn't have
Any background,
any
in
background
that, yeah.
in any Asian cultures.
Yep.
Would be
Probably a little lost.
be a little lost, yeah. And you know, admittedly, I was a little lost at the start as well.
Yep.
Even though I'm like, why are they saying that? Like,
Why is it such a big deal that they both walk down the street together?
Yeah.
But I guess it's also like, since I read a lot of Pride and Prejudice, like Victorian
Yeah.
era things, it made sense to me. Like, well, of course, noble ladies have to stay home. They
Yeah.
can't go gallivanting,
Yeah.
out in the countryside somewhere. Which is why in this show it was like extremely amazing to me that the female characters in this show aren't just shut in their house and not allowed. Well, they are supposed to be shut out.
technically shut out. They just run out and hide and then snuck out when.
By the way, those walls are ridiculously low. Like the walls
I
around
know,
their
right?
house.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're riding a horse and you can see right into someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Even if you're standing there, like the fiance standing at the
Yeah.
at the wall, tiptoeing,
Yeah, you
I
can
can
see
see
it.
all the way in.
Yeah.
And so anytime she wants to escape
She
the house,
just
she just jumps
jumps.
over the wall. I'm like, that's not a lot of security at all. I don't understand why not more noble women are gallivanting across the countryside, because that is like no barrier at all.
But yeah. But yeah, I think we kind of went a bit sidetracked. So yeah, all the side characters
Yep.
have a lot of interesting stories.
Yep.
And in particular, one of the side characters would be the hotel owner.
Yep.
So she's also she's
Second female lead.
second female lead. She's
Yeah.
supposed to be she's Korean.
Yep.
But she basically dresses and acts as if she's a Japanese
Yep.
woman. That's because she got married to a Japanese
Japanese man.
man. She's now a widower, but she's now
She has a Japanese name,
Yeah,
right?
she has a
like
Japanese name.
For everyone thinks she's a Japanese woman, right?
Yeah.
Only some know that she actually came from Korea.
Yeah, but she's fluent in a lot of different languages. She's fluent in English.
She's a very modern woman. She knows how to, she could fight better than some guys using a rapier.
Yep.
She can hold her own. Like if you try to physically assault her, you better be careful because she has a gun as well.
And she's also very smart.
Yes.
Like she knows how to, as a hotel owner, she needs information and she knows how to gather information and she knows who to sell the information
Yep.
to. So she has a very intriguing backstory because she's actually the
Daughter of the bad guy. Yep.
But she hates her father.
Yep.
And she basically does everything in her power to basically go against
Yep.
him.
And it's not because she hates her father because she has daddy issues.
No.
No. It's essentially she hates her father because her father sold her to a Japanese guy so he could get money.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah,
that's
the-
essentially what we gathered from her
so
backstory,
far anyway.
right? But she's also, it seems like she has a lot of connections. Like she has connections in the palace. She could go and visit the empress and have like a chit chat and like tea. She has lords and stuff looking for her to gather information, and she could, she's a very interesting character.
Yeah, and she's very well connected
Yes.
to everything. She knows what's happening.
Yes.
Like she's the one that understands that the three of the guys were basically
All in love with the
all
same
in love
woman.
with the same woman, and so she basically tells them in a very subtle way that all three of you are actually
Fighting for the same
fighting
woman.
for the same woman, and it's really funny when she does that because
She was doing it because she likes the American
she likes the main
guy.
guy. Yeah, she likes the male lead. So
Yep.
she's kind of trying to, put a wedge between them from,
Yeah.
having a relationship. But she's not just that though. That's not what she's only there for. Like usually the second female lead in these shows basically is only there to be the stepping stone.
Yeah, she's only there to provide conflict, or she's only there to give like the snide remarks, or like to try and stop the male lead and the female lead from getting together.
No,
this is not
the case. Like, no, she's got her own story. She's got her own motivations, and pretty much by episode like 9, 10, like she gives up on the idea of trying to. She understands that's probably not going to happen. She still kind of, eggs each other.
Eggs the fiance to go and just get the girl. Like, why aren't you trying to get the girl? Yeah. She's your fiance.
Yeah, but she never outrightly kind of does anything damaging.
No,
to them.
And that leads on to one of the other things I liked about this show. All these main characters and a lot of the side characters are just decent people. Like, even though she is the character who's supposed to be fighting with the main female lead for the male lead's affection, she doesn't do anything caddish. She doesn't do anything like backstabby. Yeah. She actually helps them in some situations, right? And the same way, like the fiance, even though he has a legitimate claim on her hand, and technically all he has to do is,
I will accept the marriage and I want to marry you now.
We should getting married. Like, there's nothing to actually stop him from doing that, except for the fact that he's a decent person. And he's like, well, I can see that she really loves the main guy, so I'm not going to get in the way, and I'm going to like step back. Yeah. And you're like, oh, you guys are all so nice and decent to each other. The three of you guys are such good friends, and then the two girls become friends, and you're like, oh, everyone's so happy. And so that's why I really, like them together, which kind of, I'm going to skip one of the main topics to skip to another thing, which is why I don't think the ending would be
great.
Because I could see, like, so far, this is a Korean drama. It's made me laugh. It made me like, it tugged all the heartstrings and everything. The one single thing it has not done yet, it hasn't made me cry. And so
you're just waiting for that moment to come. And unfortunately, because this, like, it hasn't happened so far, if it does happen, it's probably going to make you it's going to be so bad that it's going to make you bawl your eyes out to the point where you're just like, I don't want to watch any of this ever again.
Yeah, so, because everyone is so nice. Yeah. And even the bad guy has been slightly incompetent.
Yeah.
I think to make this show good, you can't just have like the bad guy peter out and nothing happen, right? There has to be some big bad that's going to happen. Or like the incompetent bad guy will finally get that last piece of information and realize that the main female lead is the key of it all.
Yeah.
And something's going to happen. And my prediction for the ending, because I haven't watched it yet, is that everyone's going to die. Right? Like, or at least the main two leads are going to die. And I will cry. And then probably the Ronin in trying to save the hotel lady, because they have a thing going on as well. He's going to try and save her and he's going to die. And then she's probably going to, like the hotel manager, she's going to try and kill her father. And then she's going to die. And the only person who's left is the fiance, who now has a newspaper company. So he's going to like print the story. And then the two kids in there, they're going to represent the hope, because all these characters would manage to save Korea, and these two kids would represent the hope that will live on forever. And I will like cry and I will hate the show for a while. And that's my prediction of the ending. And I thought that would be the worst it could possibly be. And then and then Peter tells me the ending that he thinks is going to happen. And then I'm like, okay, I want to kill you now. Do you want to tell them what you think the ending would be?
So, look, I thought that everyone dying is pretty sad.
Yeah.
That's true. But I think what would be worse is if only one of them dies and the other one has to live on for some other reason or another.
Like the girl dies and all three guys has to stand around her grave.
Yeah.
Or he dies and she remains like a nun or like something. She will stay single forever. And the other two guys just mourn with her. And then oh god.
So my prediction is that both of them aren't going to die, but one of them will. My guess, I actually think the female lead. Oh, what did I say? No, the female lead is going to die. No, the female is not going to die because she's the one that wants to die. Because she's the one that always.
No, she doesn't want to die. She expects that she will die.
Yeah, she's like she wants to be the flame. She expects to be the flame.
Yeah.
So you will never get what you want in these shows. That will make you forced to not get what you want.
That's probably she does. She dies, and then the three guys work to fight for the country, right? Like, and they win, but in the process die as well. And then that's when the kids walk off into the sunset. Or if they want to make it really bad, the three of them try to save Korea, don't manage to save Korea. The three of them dies, and then the two kids have to sail off to America. Oh, so many bad endings.
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
To see whether our predictions are correct.
Look, obviously, I would love it for it to be like a good ending.
Yeah.
I do want, like, at the same time, I would feel dissatisfied because I'm expecting to cry.
Yeah.
But because I love these characters so much, they're so good together. It'll be cool if the Ronin and the hotel manager gets together. I don't see that happening, but they're so good together.
Their interactions are brilliant. Like
they're both kind of like pining for other people in a way, but at the same time, the two of them get along really well.
And they have this understanding.
They have this chemistry too.
Yeah.
Like before the American guy showed up, and before the noblewoman showed up in his life, they had a thing, right? And so I'm just
But that's not going to happen.
Okay,
it's not going to happen. I'm going to say that now. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be a happy ending.
Well,
don't think this is going
there's only just 2 more weeks to go.
Yeah, we will know very soon. But the next time we do the recording, we will be able to recap on whether we were correct or not.
Yeah. Okay, so was there anything else you wanted to bring up about this show?
The women are really kick-ass in this show. There's a particular. We said how we liked the interactions between the 3 male leads.
Yep.
We also really enjoyed the interactions between 2 female leads.
But that doesn't happen until like episode.
No, it's a very late thing.
16, 17.
But the way they do, and when they acknowledge each other, that they both understand that, especially from the hotel owner's point of view, she never understood why these people love her.
And
she
why
never
the 3 men are so enamored.
And she never gets what's so special about this noble woman. She's just a noble woman that's very sheltered, doesn't know about the world.
I love the scene where she's trying to figure it out, and she visualizes each of the men while she's smoking, and she's like calling them, oh, idiot, like fool, loser. Right? You're like, why are you guys in love with her? What is wrong with you? And we know why.
Yeah, we understand.
But she doesn't, and it's just like, you know everything. But you just don't know this one thing, right? It's all the men around her, like, that's the thing, right? From her point of view, she always seems to understand the men around her, right? She knows how men work, right? And suddenly these 3 men aren't acting
how she would expect
logically from her point of view, right? And this lady, she's just supposed to be like some, sheltered little girl from somewhere. Why are they suddenly so involved, And so when she finally finds out, and they both are like on level playing field, like the way that they speak to each other, it's just really nice to watch.
Yeah.
It pays off. Like,
it does.
You've been waiting for it.
And I think that's why, even though this show is a romance story, because everything else is done so well.
Yep.
It, for me, at the very least, it didn't matter that the romance story didn't start off well.
Yep.
Because the interaction between everyone was so great at the end. I was like, that's okay. I can forget about the first part. It was fine. It's fine. Final thing that I really want to mention about what we like about the show is the use of language.
Oh, yes.
One thing we both really appreciate, obviously as bilingual speakers, this is one of the few shows that really portrays bilingual speaking accurately. Multilingual, speaking accurately. Just the use of language when they use certain languages. in saying that, there is one thing that we both got a bit annoyed is that the subtitles doesn't tell you what language it is.
Yeah.
When
You have multiple people in a room, and some people are speaking in Japanese, some people are speaking in Korean, and we understand, okay? Like, I don't understand Korean, but I do recognize Japanese.
We understand enough Japanese to know when someone's speaking Japanese.
Yes.
So for us, at least, we were able to tell, okay, that guy's speaking Japanese. This is another language that I don't understand, so that has to be Korean.
And also, you understand everyone's role in a room, right? You understand there are certain people in this room that doesn't understand Japanese.
Yeah.
So when this guy is speaking in Japanese, he's doing it on purpose so that certain people don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, this is an extra subtext to this show that they expect people who are watching it to understand. I fear when I watch this, and because the subtitles just all in English, and they don't ever tell you what language the speaker is speaking. I worry that when the broader audience members go and watch this show, they're gonna miss something.
Yeah,
they're not gonna understand that certain people in the room have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's on purpose.
Yeah.
They would think that everyone's just speaking
in the same language.
and it's supposed to tell you certain things about these characters as well. Firstly, some people know how to speak multiple languages. Other situations, you understand that they're speaking a language in a weird accent. And you understand, oh, they're not really Korean, right? Or they're not really Japanese or something, right? It's supposed to let you know something about these characters. But because the subtitles don't tell you that, you miss the subtext. You miss it, yeah.
If you don't have that cultural experience, you won't get it.
No.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of it in this show.
This show is not just like mainly Korean with a smattering of English or a smattering of Japanese. No. Half this show is in Japanese. Yeah. Right? And there's a third of this show is in Japanese, a third is in Korean, third of it is in English, and every now and then there's a bit of Chinese, there's a bit of Russian, there's a bit of French, and you're and in one sentence they could have multiple languages.
And as I said, that's something that, again, we really appreciate because we understand as a multilingual speaker, there are times when you will say something and different words from different languages will pop in.
Just because that's the way it works.
That's just the way we do if we're speaking to another person that we know understands all those languages. Yeah. That's just how we speak.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really appreciate in this show that does very accurately. And I wish especially a lot of other Western shows that shows Asians or shows, different languages, to not just have just slabs of, text in one language and completely change into different slab of text into another language, because we don't really speak like that. If I'm speaking with someone that is fluent in both languages, there will be times when we have words intermingled with each other. And
that's how Altered Carbon did it too.
Yeah,
right? Like they had people speaking in two languages at the same time. Yeah. And that's just how
how we speak. And that's why I was so appreciative of this show that portrays something like that so realistically. Not a lot of show has done that properly, especially a lot of American and Australian as well. Shows where they try to give that cultural, diversity, but it's never authentic, and this is why it's not authentic.
Well, this made it really authentic because at that time in this environment, you're supposed to know all those languages. If you need to survive in that world at that time, you need to know all these languages, because otherwise how would you do business? Some people just don't understand your language, or they might be holding a secret conversation that you have no idea of, right? That actually brings into mind personally, like I actually have my grandmother's age, like my grandmother's friend, she was telling me that she understood Japanese. And I was like, I don't understand why. Like, she says she knows not just Cantonese, she knows English and Japanese, right? And I'm like, wait, how? Like, I mean, you like, and then I remembered, like, she was alive during the time when the Japanese occupied Hong Kong, right? And then, she needs to understand all those languages. She might not remember all the words now, but she needed to know it, because at that time, if you don't know the language, you just can't survive, right? So, watching this show brings me back to, brings that to mind a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, during that time, you'd have to do that. You know more languages back in those days than most people know the language now. Like nowadays, people just think, oh, I know English and my whatever language I speak at home.
Yeah, and that's enough. And it's just the way it is now. Yeah. Okay.
So that I think that kind of wraps it up. I think there's one thing we should probably mention. Well, two things. Oh god, I'm so terrible at keeping time. I was telling Peter through like sign language that we probably want to wrap it up and go on to the next thing. But then I remember some of the notes things that we really want to talk about. Can I talk about them really quickly?
Yeah.
This show is really good at making people look young. Okay, because as I said, the first episode it shows the two characters' backstory when they were kids, so to speak. So some of the characters that exist now, they exist back then too, right? And there's a younger version of them, and they're so good at making them look young. Like one of the guys, the main bad guy, he looks like he was like 30 years old in that first episode, and he has like double the amount of body weight, and he just looked old. Like he looked older now. He looked like a younger version of himself then. Yeah. And you have the grandfather who looked amazingly young there too. Just this show is really good there, and I don't notice the CG, and you normally do, but it could be because the show has a lot of lens flare, and so the lens flare is covering up a lot of stuff. And the other thing I want to mention, which I think you want to mention too, the pro-Japanese thing.
Oh, right. So, well, while we were, discussing about this show and we were doing some research about it, we realized that there was actually quite a bit of criticism and backlash in Korea about this show. And the main criticism was that there seems to be a lot of pro-Japanese message through the portrayal of the Ronin samurai guy. Now, I found that really interesting because I was talking to Serene about it, and both of us were under the impression that there wasn't any pro-Japanese message at all. If anything, this show was so anti-Japanese that it was kind of offensive in some ways to Japanese as when I'm watching it. I just find it really interesting that that some Koreans could take that there was pro-Japanese messages.
I'm just wondering whether this show could be sold to Japan at all.
I know, right? It's so
like every single Japanese character in this show
is bad. Literally.
Well, nearly. Okay, there's that
one guy.
The
one, but even if you didn't tell me, I would barely recognize that he was supposed to be Japanese, right?
Yeah.
The only apart from that one, and it's a very, very minor character.
He's like was it the apprentice of the potter? He's supposed to be. This is one of those situations where you have to understand the language, or like understand that he's speaking Korean with a Japanese accent. Yeah, right. Like he's like, oh, so he's actually Japanese. That's kind of not defected, but he's like in Korea right now, and he's he's learning from a Korean master, and he feels bad that Korea's getting taken over. Like this stuff is things you don't get.
But every other supposedly good Japanese guys are actually all Koreans.
Yeah, like they're originally from Korea. They moved to
Japan
for a little bit and came back. And they're now fighting for Korea.
Yeah, so I don't see how there can be any like pro-Japanese messages in this show at all. And it's really, I don't know what the current political
climate is between Korea
and Japan. And I gathered from the previous. It couldn't have been great. But I never realized it was this bad until recently, obviously. So.
The other criticism that the show had was that it wasn't historically correct. Now, because you watched this show late, I remember, I'm pretty sure when I first watched the first, second, third episode, whatever, there was no message at the start of the show. When you watch the show now, there's a message that says all these characters are fictional and the events are all fictional. Yeah. It didn't have that before. And I think it's because they had the backlash of like, this is not historically correct and you're making things up. Yeah. They added that message in. And they went back and added it in the start as well. Okay. So I'm like, because I was watching it, I'm like, wait, I don't remember having this black screen with these words on it saying that it's
fictional.
Yeah. You're watching a TV show, aren't you? Just assuming it's fictional. But yeah.
Final thing we want to make a little bit of a comment on is we didn't, at least I never realized how much of a caste system they had in Korea. Okay, I understand that a lot of Asian cultures had class systems, and that's just how the things were back in the days. Yep. I didn't realize how stringent and how frowned upon and how segregated it was. Like in Korea, it seemed like not only you had like noble class and the peasants, but even within the peasants, they had their own class as well. Like if you were the butchers, you were the lowest of the low of the peasants, and you can't do anything. Even other people can basically do whatever they want.
People could rape your wife,
yeah,
and you can't say anything because you're from the butcher's case.
Yeah, you have to beg them to pay you for what you give them.
Yeah, like you bought meat from the butchers. You don't pay the butchers. The butchers have to come and beg you for the money that you owe them. And it's like, wait, what? Like that doesn't make sense.
So, I don't know whether this is whether it's factually correct. I don't know what the actual Korean culture is like in terms of this, but just from watching this, it seems it's such like a hierarchical class system that's so, everything has to follow exactly as it is. I just found that really, really strange. And this is already coming from, like obviously we're from a Chinese background, and in Chinese they also had class systems, but it didn't
seem like
it never seemed to be portrayed as harsh as this. Again, we don't know if that's because they just decided not to show us those in Chinese dramas.
Yep.
But that just never came out as harsh as this.
It's like, oh, they want to run away, now they're going to get beaten to death. Or like, why did they want to run away? Oh, because they wanted to sell the wife to another man.
Yeah.
And the husband was going to remain working here or something. Like, what? I don't understand what's going on here. So this opened my eye. Well, I mean, I've watched other Korean shows that's kind of like mentioned that. Like, one of the other shows I watched, like the woman was as a slave, right? And she gave birth to a son because she was raped by the housemaster. So now there's this awkwardness because the son he's not considered a slave. He is the bastard son of the master. But his mother is a slave. So his presence is an embarrassment to the family, right? And he's constantly trying to save his mother, and apparently he's trying to save up money to buy his mother. And so there's this whole like thing that I'm like, what's going on here? This is so weird, right? Normally in Asian dramas, right? If the woman give birth, there's two answers. One, they'll try to kill her because you can't have that. No. Two, she becomes a mistress.
Right? Like
she gains in status.
She gains in status. Otherwise, they just don't want her, right? There's no that clear awkwardness that they will firmly keep in place. Like, it just doesn't happen.
So anyway, okay.
We need to wrap up.
Yes. So I think that's overall. I could say I really like the show. Can you say what like you?
Overall, I enjoyed the show. I would say that you have to kind of watch the show without the idea that it's going to be a political show, even though it starts off misguiding you to think it is. It's not. It's a romance.
Start off to misguide you by the second episode.
It
does.
It's so misleading. The first half of the show, I did find it very slow. I found it very difficult to go through the first part. It wasn't engaging for me.
Okay.
But once you get past the first, not even half, the first third. Once you get past the first third of the show, it becomes really good. Once you start seeing the interactions between all the characters and see how they develop their characters through the interactions with everyone, it becomes a really, really enjoyable show.
Yep. Okay. What are we going to do next month?
So, we have decided, firstly, because I have no time again. So we're going to do a movie. So I only need to spend less than 3 hours doing my research instead of spending the, 20 something hours watching a TV drama. We are going to do the movie Crazy Rich Asians.
Yes.
Because that's what apparently all Asians should do, is to watch this movie. Because otherwise you're not,
You're not a good Asian.
You're not a good Asian.
If you don't watch this movie.
So we have been pressured by people to watch this show.
We've been pressured by expectation, I think.
Yeah.
Less by people. I don't think anyone actually came up to me and said,
no.
You need to watch this, otherwise you're a terrible Asian.
But
I just feel it.
Yeah. You just feel this weight being like, you're not going to watch this? What do you mean you're not going to watch this?
It has a full Asian cast. What do you mean you're not going to watch this?
I should actually also watch it because I do actually know one of the leads. So
one of the characters. You don't know what character he
I'm
is
pretty
yet.
sure he's one of the leads.
Okay.
Anyway, well, at least I know one of the characters
Yeah.
is in the show. So
Yeah.
I guess I should watch it.
You know one of the actors.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this would be interesting to watch because we just said what it would be like. We like this show, like this current show, because it showed how multilingual people communicate with each other. I don't think in Crazy Rich Asian
We're going to see that.
we're going to see too much. Like, I haven't read the book. I tried. I couldn't do it. So how much Malaysian would actually be in this show?
Yeah, I have
How much other Asian language would be in this show? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. And then we could talk about it and compare it in that way. Like, do they have what? Are they going to do English subtitles in a Hollywood movie? I really doubt that. But it'd be kind of cool if they did.
True.
It'd be really cool if they did.
Anyway, so that is what we're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
And until then, I guess we'll do our wrap up.
Okay, yep. So you can find our show notes at triggerpoint.com/24. You can
24th episode.
Oh yeah, we forgot about it.
2 years. Woohoo! Yay!
Yay.
Okay, continue. Very so little fanfare. Might as well have not had it.
No, we should at least acknowledge the fact that we've done this for 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we did more acknowledgement last episode than we did this episode. But anyway, whatever.
Anyway.
Yeah. You can message us on Twitter at TriggerPointFM, or you can email us at triggerpointfm@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So,
until then,
until next time.
see everyone.
Bye.
Bye.